Hola community, welcome to Blender Today live episode 283. Today, that was a Zelda song, by the way, which great timing to do a live stream at the same time as the Nintendo Direct, where they announced a Zelda. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but shall we remake the most popular Blender version? Which one is it? 2.8, 2.80? This is episode 2.83, which is the version of the first LTS, the one that got supported for 2 years. We're still making LTS every year, once a year, and 5.2 LTS is on its way. However, today we're going to talk about 5.3 as well, which is in alpha, but the day after the alpha started, there is a big feature, a huge feature. It's still in the making, but it's gonna make projects a lot easier to manage and to actually make projects in Blender itself. No spoilers, I'm gonna keep it there. And however, remember the last time we chatted, it was 5.2. We still had 1 week, so I do this episode every other week, which means the first week was all about 5.2 and the second one was about 5.3. So whatever, there are some things that there are some things that I mentioned here that are for 5.2. I'm going to tell you which ones if I remember. Let's see what else. Actually, there is no announcements today. I was I was just showing someone in the chat that was asking me what do I drink. That's it, just to clear things up. But there is not really big announcements today. We have the 5.1.2, which I already mentioned. Blender the door, there's not much. Blender Studio, maybe the Blender Studio. No, the making of is I already mentioned that last time. So I think we can get started with what's new in Blender today. So today it's we are gonna start with A4 Alembic. In Alembic there is one change, which is mostly it's like a big refactor. So it's not a one specific feature, but it should help with making subdivisions more reliable. Like it should backfix and improvements on subdivision meshes. So that if you had issues with that, let me know. I punched the microphone. Did you hear that? I hope you were not wearing headphones. Let's move into the next section with the A, which is animation. Animation, there are a few things here to mention. So first, B-bones, the Blender bones, bendy bones. Do you know the B-bones for bendy bones? The default scale is now 1.0, which it is the default scale when you just add one. But if you change it to something else and then right-click, reset to default, it would go back to 0. So now it doesn't. Now go back to 1. Small quality of life. Actually, every setting, every property has this thing that is a default, basically. So if you run into some of these settings, and it has to be added manually, as you can tell by this. So if you run into this and by clearing it, it goes into a weird number or something that's not expected, report it as a bug because it's very easy to fix. You just need, you can see it's a one-liner and it makes the experience better. So please. But again, it has to be done by hand. Post-slide operators now work on objects. This is 5.2, by the way. And actually, I kind of teased these in the previous episode where I mentioned the transformable API introduction, which means a lot of transforms, location, rotation, scale, apply not just for bones, but also objects. It could apply to objects, and now it does. All the slide operations now work there, which means in object mode, and I don't have Blender open, but let me open my own 3D software right here. And your own 3D software as well. Blender, it belongs to everyone. And object mode, you will have a breakdowner with, if you click on hold, you get push and relax. Push and relax. So if you need to relax, Blender 5.2 got you covered. This, if you didn't know, this is basically you have 2 keyframes and you can slide and add a keyframe in between. So breakdowner, kind of self-explanatory, but makes a breakdown keyframe in between 2. with a slider. That has been in Blender for a while, but now it's in objects. So nice. So let's see. And next one is in the graph editor. You can now control click to isolate a curve. So if let's see it in action. So I have a bunch of keys. It's a bit, you could add a keyframe with the expanded, right? I always hated that Blender adds a keyframe and all the curves are collapsed by default. Most of the time you actually want to see the curves, right? Or select them or clear or something. Anyway, so now you can control click on an item to isolate it. So this works great. Or maybe I have an older version. Control click for isolate. Oh wait, it's in must be on this list. No? No. Wait, let's see. Control click on the graphic editor's eye icon for visibility of the F curves. Oh, okay, so it's not for the actual thing. Okay, terrible naming, but that's only for the eye. I thought it would be for like selection, you know? Can't expect it to work there. Also, if it's for the eye, why not work also for all these other guys? No? Or maybe it's because it tries to apply the same kind of concept that you do in the outliner. You control click for visibility. But this also works for renderability and yeah, inconsistency. So maybe we can mention this and it can be added. But it was someone from the community, so thank you, Anton. Sorry, I didn't want to complain about you working for free for Blender. Thank you. All right, let's move on. What else is new here? By the way, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat here. So, how's everyone doing here? Let's see. No bots yet. Yesterday I did the Spanish version of Blender Today, like the one I do, and they were the same bots that they were here last time. They were there. They're all over the place in many languages, but it's more obvious that they are bots in Spanish because they use it looks like a bot, more bot than bot. Let's see. Oh, nice. A for assets. There are so many changes for assets because we do have a number of additions related to online assets, to the asset libraries in general. So the downloaded online assets will now show a little warning icon if they don't match with there's no screenshot, but you need to picture well, don't picture it. Well, yes, picture it. But don't get disappointed because in Blender, the icon looks bad. So we need to fix it for 5.2. But there will be an icon telling you that there is a conflict between the local downloaded online asset and the remote one. You know how in browsers you can shift R or shift click on the reload button to refresh the whole page and the cache and the not cookies, but everything else, CSS. This concept is now also in the asset browser in Blender. So that way you can force refresh the list of the online asset library. So you see, I have, well, this is the ugly icon. So it hasn't been fixed yet. So yeah, no matter how big I make it, the icon's still there. It doesn't have a tooltip. Work in progress. This will be fixed for the final release. Don't worry. So if I shift click, then some of these assets should be fixed. No, shift R, sorry, shift R. I need to refresh the catalog. For some reason it's still there. So I think I have some messy setup. Probably you're not updating Blender every day and testing alpha at the same time. So you're not gonna run into this. When you install it the first time, it doesn't happen. But there is now this menu as well. I don't know if you noticed. There is a library menu with refresh and refresh amount listing. And there is a, no, the catalog is still there, but the icons are new. Just mentioned because I added the icons, I forgot. What else is new? In the context menu, you can now open file location and it will open a file browser with the assets that is there. So you can open file location. Yeah, you see this is the local version. How can I know? Because the source file, it points to a local cache library. Ah, you see, that's why the cache is bad. So let's see. Open file location, it will open a finder with the place where the cache is here. So I can actually come here and nuke the cache, I think. Remote assets, can remove the whole thing. And then when I refresh, I will get a new version of everything, actually. So all the assets actually right here, materials even, and they should be fine now. There you go. Now there's no more warning anymore. Hey, and now they have the icon actually that says the online. It's always there. No, it used to be only on hover, but now it's always there. Nice. Let's just see what else is new. The online icon is always shown. Yes, this I mentioned already. The catalogs, the naming of the catalogs has changed a bit. So you might notice if you follow BlenderToday often, you will see that the sorting of this and the organization has changed a bit. So you see there is camera and lens effects, creative, mask, etc. They used to be on a higher level, but now they're under compositing, just so it's a bit more tidy. The reason why they were in the top level was because Blender was using these catalogs to match the name of the actual menus in Shift A, so creative, effects, etc. And it was trying to use the same organization, but you would end up with a messy top level. So now Blender has this path that can be ignored. So long story short, nicer catalogs names. What else? If you use the online assets before last week, you may have noticed that when you click and drag them into the viewport, you would, or into anywhere in Blender, they will start to be downloaded. That has changed. Now you need to download it first and then it will work. Why was that change? Because it was very nice. I think it was fast. You click drag, and as you drag, Blender downloads it, and by the time you're there, you drop it. Yes, that's wishful thinking. That worked mostly if you're in the Netherlands at the Blender HQ with the servers right here and very fiber connection, and in reality, assets that are more than a few kilobytes or a megabyte would not download in time for when you drag and drop. So now you need to download them, and then they will be available. Like that's the case in many other asset systems. It's just, yeah, we were spoiled. We were testing it with very perfect situations. Okay, let's see. In the preferences, now Blender will show the built-in libraries. Nice. So you go to preferences, asset libraries. There is 2 asset libraries by default, and well, 3, because by default Blender comes with 3. So there is all libraries built in, essentials library also built in. Eventually, you will be able to disable them. There's not yet, but it is planned that you will be able to just toggle them off, and then if you don't care about Blender essentials, then you don't have them, so they don't show up here. That should be fine. and the same for the all libraries, not at the time, by the way. Okay, next, show banner in asset browser when online asset is disabled. Yes, so, this doesn't have a PR connected to it, but how can I show it to you then? I can show you that if I disable online access and I'm looking at an online essentials library, then I should get a message. I wonder if that's going to be the case. No. Oh, there's an icon that I was testing. It's not in main. You're not gonna see this icon. I was just testing it myself. It's an icon for the sidebar instead of having the cog icon. Because the cog we use for preferences, which it's not always appropriate. But yeah, this library is not fully that's the case. This library is not fully online. It's online and offline. That's why it doesn't show me an error. But it's not an error actually. It's just a banner here on top that says internet access is disabled. So that's why you don't see anything. That's it. Okay, let's see. That's it. That's all for assets in general. So let's see what is the next section is C4 Compositor. There's 3 changes this week that I would like to highlight. First one is it's a very small one. We've seen this last time. The tooltips for sockets in the Compositor were very verbose. For example, the sampling, transformation, and precision, but also extension X and extension Y, even though there is only one kind of extension, which in this case is clip. So now Blender will be smarter and tell you, hey, if X and Y match, just show it clip. Small thing, but you know, makes for more readable layouts. The next change, actually I found this on right-click select. It looked very easy, even for a smooth, like marble brain like mine, because the request was this. So the file output default needs name fixing. It doesn't make any sense. No, it makes no sense whatsoever to have this as a default name for images. The default name being file underscore name, like literally every image you connect to as you render, it will be filename.exr. So this person suggested blend name, which is a new variable template that would actually give you the name of your blend file. And I was like, hey, that makes sense. So I look at the code. I searched basically quotes file name, and yes, it was there. So my marble smooth brain replaced one line and actually worked. Yay! So I was happy with this change. However, I didn't notice that I left in the translation bit, so I actually had to fix it later. It was thanks to Damian who brought it up. So you know, when you feel smart, no, you're still not that smart. So that's so nice. So this means, for example, that if something like this, you know, you have your blend file called myterriblefilm.blend. When you save, when you compose it and render, it will be myterriblefilm.exr. Nice. Next, the Boolean math node, in also from geometry nodes, is now available in the Compositor. This also fixes an issue with bool to color conversion from GPU to match the CPU. So nice. You know what else is nice? Core. There is a few changes in Core. One is a small one, and one is the title of this show. Today, this changed, well, 2 weeks ago. It's a new icon, which is the same icon that is used for packed, but slightly dimmed, more dimmed, which is the same concept. It's not great, I know. We should have its own icon, but at least it gives you a hint. It's the same concept that we have for the link icon, the chain, for direct links and indirect links. Indirect links means that it's not directly linked to the files, but it is linked from a link of a link. So it's nested. So that way you can tell. In the same way for packed assets, in this case, you can tell that the curve hair curves, it's directly packed, it's a top level, and then the other guys here are actually packed from something else. They're children of some other packed asset. So that's pretty nice. That was by Jack, so thank you, Jack. And let's see. So now it's time for the big feature, the one that gives it the name. I don't know why I'm wearing this. Is so hot here, and then I'm drinking hot water. The name of this show is Project Awareness. Actually, it's 5.3 projects, which you could argue it's a bit of a clickbait because it sounds like it is projects related to 5.3. But it's not clickbait, it's just confusing. I'm just bad at naming things. Projects is it's a feature, a concept, a new editor. It's a new kind of ownership of your blend files. This is new in 5.2, in 5.3, sorry. It's been planned for a while. What I'm going to show you is nearly no, it's not useless. It's borderline. No, not a borderline. It's very bare bones because let's see. What is this? This is Project Awareness and UI. It's a work in progress project. It's a project setup also. It's a big PR, that's why it's taking a while, but I can just show you in Blender. I happen to have a Blender right here. So let's say I have this blend file and it's called Untitled. Great. Let's make a project, an actual project. Right now, all your blend files, unless you have some kind of setup yourself with an add-on, like the studio team here downstairs have an add-on for project management, and everybody in every studio has its own setups, but now Blender has one built in. So I have here, let's go to below preferences, there is a section called project setup. And in project setup, you're gonna get this giant window of nothing. It's a whole chunk of your screen with nothing but two buttons. First, it tells you no active project. Save the current file and make sure to place it in a folder that will be part of the project. Okay, how do I do that? Well, first we need to save the file. I have an untitled file here, so let's save it. Let's go to my desktop and I'm gonna make a new folder called my terrible film. This is my project, my terrible film. So this blend file is gonna be called, this is gonna be my edit.blend, right? Cool. So now I have a blend file. It's saved. So now I can make a project. You may have noticed that almost nothing changed except this one button. I almost missed it the first time, but now it's called new project. Hey, that changed. So you can open a file from a project, but you can also create a new project. Let's create a new one. Let's save it somewhere. So basically I need to just pick a folder, which is going to be the root of my project. In this case, I have my terrible film here in the desktop, great location, new project. And now Blender automatically called it my terrible film, but I can actually call it my terrible film. That's the name of my project and that's the root of my project. That's where I save it. So that's all. That's everything that is now in a project. Name, location. However, there are things coming up which are gonna make this a lot more useful. For example, well, actually there's two things that are already here, which are variable templates. So you know the variable templates because I just mentioned for blend name, right? It's that curly bracket thing. So let's see. Say I have these, I'm rendering now my scene. I'm outputting into temp. And then I wanted to actually save it in a different folder for each project. I can actually do curly brackets and then do curly brackets project name underscore name and then render. You know, I have my render here, so that's it. And then, yeah, Blender is gonna add some things here, .png, there you go. So these are gonna be my renders, right? Or actually, I can even call it something else here. I can do blend name, and even better, I can copy paste these things everywhere. So let's now render. So now I'm gonna make this render amazing cube here. I have a few renders. So now let's actually look at this. So I open this in my Finder here, and in fact I have in my temp folder my terrible film and then edit.001 because edit is the blend file name and my terrible film is my folder, which is great. And you want to know what how to find out. you can leave the mouse over and you will see the evaluated string. So you see /tmp/ my terrible film edit png. This will be super nice for studios, for everyone actually, because you could argue that this could be the default if it doesn't find it. Like, why would you have, well, TMP is also a terrible default to to save things, because on some operating system it gets deleted on refresh. So it's gonna be something you need to get used to. Thing is, how do I know that project name exists? Well, you can't, because there's no documentation yet. So you need to watch BlenderToday. And on top of that, there are more variables coming. This is what we're gonna make it super nice, and especially for studios. So if we search for project variable, then we'll find, or no, it's a PR actually. It already exists. So variables. Let's see, project variable. Look at this PR. This is gonna make a huge difference, because users will be able to add their own variables, change their names, types, value, anything. So you will be able to say, okay, this is where my assets are. This is where my images, my files, my audio, my character, my main character name, right? Character is called Koro. And then instead of writing Koro anywhere, or if you change the character for each scene, then you can just change that. You know, it's the sky is the limit with this. So nice. It will be some kind of UI list. I don't know if there is a UI in the previous PR. No. Oh yeah, there should be one. So yeah, something like this. So this is a mockup by Dalai, I believe. So you have baking path. In this case, you have where you want to save your bake. So you define it. Project root. Project root is another variable that I didn't mention. Camera height, for example, you know, numbers, and then you can define the name of the variable, the string, the value, how it's gonna be, and a description, like a tooltip. So this is amazing. This is so cool. So nice. What else? I think this is it for, well, everything that is that I explained lately. The project variables themselves, they're still on their development. However, this project name you can use today in Blender 5.3. Remember, this is 5.3, not 5.2. It was almost ready for 5.2, but it was just too big of a project too. And also, why would you ship a feature that only has like 2 variables? It's still not great. Also with an LTS, it's too risky for an LTS. Anyway, I hope you liked it. It's a big project. It's a project we've been calling it. And it's so nice. So let's see. It's time to get loose some clothes, because it's summer after all. What else? Ooh, more C for cycles. In cycles, we do have a few changes. So let's start with a regression, a performance regression that was fixed for one API. So for Intel graphics cards, should bring back 4 or 5% performance regression that happened a while ago. Then new feature for texture cache. The texture cache feature from Blender 5.2. This is also for 5.2. You can now bake or generate texture cache TX files for image sequences. So there is a nice little dialogue that tells you, hey, generate, you know, when you want to generate texture cache, include 3 image sequence TX files, yes or no. Because you can generate so much TX files, there is also now an operator to clear them. You can now clear the texture cache, and this is going to make some room in your scene. So nice. Question here. The variables will work across all Blender files inside of a project. Yes. So yeah, something I forgot to mention, by the way, is that every file that I save inside of this my terrible file here, my terrible film, sorry, not my terrible file, is gonna be, by the way, there is a folder, a hidden folder called Blender project, and there is a project definition. So Blender, when you create a new project, now creates this .blender project folder, which defines the root of the project, which means that any blend file that is saved in this project folder will belong to that project. Can you have, what happens if I have this project, this .blender project folder inside of another project folder? Well, Blender will try to look for this folder, this magic name, in whatever the parent folders are. So it will go up one level, nothing. Another level, hey, I found this. Okay, I belong to this project. So you can have projects inside of projects, but maybe don't do it just in case. But it's super nice. Let's see. Good question, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I should make a little, I can make a video about that, because it is very easy to explain because there is very few features. Let's continue. Speaking of one API, there is a Linux update on the drivers. So you must update to at least 3.7435 from the previous version. It's always good to keep them up to date. And optics kernels should now load a little bit faster, especially when using open shading language, OSL. So yeah, something that used to take no, this is depends on the scene, so nothing that used to take, but they used to have big timeouts of 600 seconds. Now the longest test is 300. Not bad. Okay. Next. So we have some changes in extension, bunch of fixes because we are in beta times. You beta test Blender 5.2, please. Okay, G4 geometry nodes. There's a bunch of changes. Oh yeah, because last time we talked, physics were not added in a official way to Blender. They're still official, but because they are experimental. There's physics via nodes, so simulations via nodes in Blender 5.2 LTS, but they are marked as experimental. The node has a label that says experimental. That's it. That's the only way to find out. Because in releases, and there is no experimental in preferences. When you're using alpha releases, you notice there is this experimental thing that you can mess with, but in stable releases, it's not there. Okay, we were talking about geonodes. Let's see. Well, most of the changes have to do with dynamic groups. So in this case, there is a new asset called custom effector that you can make your custom effectors for physics. So I'm not going to dive too much into it because it's experimental. The transfer attribute nodes has now a change that allows you to pass on an empty list, and if the option to where is the checkbox to the exclusion pattern is enabled, then it's gonna invert and basically pass on all the attributes or transfer all the attributes, even if you pass on an empty list, like ignoring it basically. Next, the object socket in geometry nodes now will default to self object when nothing is connected to it. It's usually the default. Geometry bundles are out of experimental, right? This was very much needed for the physics nodes. So you can pass on entire bundles of geometry around. And also the transfer attributes node is out of experimental. I'm open the window, it's getting even more warm. I don't know if am I rendering? Am I stream? Well, streaming gets really warm in the computer. I don't know what they do. Transcoding, I guess. What else? Principal component analysis node group assets. Simon Thomas added two nodes, one called principal components and one is geometry principal components, which the difference is the one has the geometry input on it. And this seems pretty interesting. And it basically allows you to get analysis, so tests, you get data out of this. Interesting. You get a group center, rotation, principal components, the longest axis, intermediate and shortest axis for the geometry that you pass on. Oh, and the difference is that you can pass the group ID and principal components. Nice. Let's see. Let's see. Closure to list node has been added, and this also I think was used. Well, lists are used a lot in physics stuff, so this PR adds a new closure to list node which can create lists of geometries, strings, grids, etc. So it gives you a bunch of hamburger sockets list here, which is a bit strange when you look at it. Is like, why is there an input and then outputs and then inputs again? That's strange. Well, I'm not the only one that noticed, but W Cloud, who has a keen eye for detail, found this and moved it last. So now it looks correct. Wait, no, sorry, where is not here? It's in here. I got the wrong PR. Also by W Cloud. And yeah, now they moved it down. So nice when the community has your back doing these kind of things. And the feature that I wanted to mention is also by W Cloud, which allows you to rename output sockets for the closure to list node. This one that I just mentioned. So you can now control click and rename directly inside of the node instead of having to go to the sidebar. Next, bone info. Don't you hate it when you get bone info on things that doesn't exist? Well, now there is an input that was added by Katisha Caramel to detect or to gives you a boolean if something exists or not in that specific bone. The aerodynamics have been removed from experimental, something I mentioned earlier, so nothing new here. But you know what is new? Well, it's not really new because it's been in the making for 84 years, or that's what it felt. The bevel node, and that deserves an applause because bevel node is people dream about this. And the day before the LTS beta went into beta and nothing else could be added, this little Bible with descriptions and 9,200 lines of code, 5 deletions though, added a new bevel node. This is insane. It's I mean, if you look at it, it seems very much not something that it would be that controversial, right? It's like a node with a bunch of inputs, outputs, right? But the flexibility that this gives you is yeah, all over the place, because you know the bevel node from and love from places such as the modifiers, right, or the operator. But some of these things are very static, right? Like all these inputs are static. You can drive them, but things like the profile shape, right? You're limited by this little widget here. You cannot really change this dynamically, right? You cannot insert a keyframe in this thing. You cannot change this shape. However, in the mesh bevel, you can. You have a profile there, so you can just pretty much do anything there. So I have my bevel here, and you can do anything you want to do, like an arc. curve. There you go. So you can pass on your own shape there. Well, if you don't have enough segments, you're not going to notice the difference. So yeah, the sky is the limit here. It has these nice little meter corners, so cute. And yeah, so nice. Vertices, edges. It gives you some outputs where you can get the vertex face, outer edge, and mid edge. All these things you couldn't do before. You didn't have access to this. You can change what is affected with fields instead of having to rely on the, what was it? You could limit it to vertex group. That was very limiting. You could use attributes, but anyway, this is so cool. I'm looking forward to see what people are going to be making with this little node. So welcome Bevel node to the family. I'm happy you made it to 5.2 and looking forward to what's next. So thank you to Howard, to Hans also for doing the last push at the very end, doing tests, doing a whole bunch of things. Actually, I mean, a lot of these are tests. So all these blend files are test 1, test 2, test 3, just to make sure that it's stable and works. So nice. New node, sort list. It's a new node by Brady that allows you to sort the list, basically. So you get something like this. Sort weight, selection, group ID, and type. And last but not least, there is a new catalog called simulation where the dynamic assets for simulation are in. Let's see. Oh, Brady is here. Thank you, Brady, for adding this node and so many other features. Okay, let's see. That is all for geometry nodes. Actually, there is a few other changes, but not gonna mention them. So there is Git, GLTF, GPU, and another one that made it at the very end of the cycle of the release cycle, which is Grease Pencil Fill Tool Algorithm. So if you remember the fill tool, it was a bit of a mess. So we have some time today. Well, I don't know if we do, but let's add a monkey. One does, right? Let's see. So say for example, I'm gonna get rid of the fields. Well, actually, I need a fields to be below, so you can tell. So let's go to draw mode. Let's go to fill. I'm gonna change to the old methods just to show you, but just to show you the mode. Once you use this method, you have to click, and then you have to well, first you need to set the, where is it? Like, this menu is so large. You could enable the 8s. You could do 8s, and then you can set the size, and then you can set like the limits of which the field will extend, so you can see where the thing would work, and in the end is not gonna work very well. Let's actually pick something that has a fill. So you will click, and then you would get something like this, because it is strange. There were other options. You could choose radius, right? You have the mode radius, and in that case you will give you like this kind of. Anyway, most of the time it would fail. Not anymore. Now there is one option, which is the default, so you don't have to change anything, which is called Delaunay, which you may know this from curves and from other places in Blender that are using it lately, which is so nice. So for this, you can just click, and it will start to find this threshold where it can, okay, I can work this, I can fix this. So you can do here, and then you go, or just try your luck, and then just go like, I'm gonna try maybe better here. Wow, sometimes it actually picks the whole thing, and maybe that's it because it's a bit too permissive actually. So there are options that you can tweak. So let's say I go detection factor 0 and then no internal gaps, and then bam, I can actually try to fill it on. So I can do like let's do the eyes here in one go, and then the rest of the face. Isn't that great? So nice. Yeah, Delaunay math is just so nice. Yeah, Delaunay is taking over many places in Blender for fill, in meshes, for curves, grease pencil, text. Remember text that it looked so bad in previous releases. I think in 5.1 was it that it got used for that. So I would say let's add Delaunay to everything. Let's Delaunay the world. That's it. That's it. That's a new fill. So it works by default. You don't have to tweak anything, and it should make your life easier. So let's see. So nice. Now feeling good. Okay. What else? Oh, and as importing SVGs now supports scene units in the using the operator grease pencil import SVG. So thank you, Dupoxy, for this. You can enable from the preferences, from the sidebar of the import operator. And I keep calling it preferences because of the icon. That's why I made this I made this this icon, this sidebar icon, which is hard to see, but we already have an icon like that actually. So yeah, you cannot enter numbers when another window is on. Interesting. So if I go to open, yeah, this icon, which is very common in other software too. It's a sidebar. Anyway, what do you think of that icon? Do you think we should replace that with the cog? The cog to me is preferences, and it's not really preferences most of the time, because they're not saved in the they're not preferences. It should be something else. Adjustments. Okay, let's move on. There is some internationalization as always. Images. Keymap. There is one change in the Keymap, which is a new shortcut for something that already exists. This is the mouse button 4, which is in some mice, it's on the side here. This is an MX Master something something. It has it on the side. It's very common to have this 4 on 5 buttons. Well, button 4 now will center the, it would actually be the same as pressing the dot in the keyboard. So the equivalent to pressing this guy in the keyboard. Yeah, if you don't have a mouse with a numpad, you can use the number 4 now, or assign it to something else. So yeah, let's see. Add new outliner. Oh, this is in a different section called library overrides. We have one operator and one new feature. The operator is in the outliner. There is a new remove override operation tool in the outliner. Allows you to selectively remove an override from the outliner. Super nice. Actually, this should be called outliner. No, it's library. It's mixed. You know what is great is that now you can override GeoNode packed bakes. This is now supported. It's very tricky apparently to make this. It's a bunch of lines of code, 300 something, but now it's supported. So yay. In the M4 modeling, there is one small feature but big at the same time. Merging vertices will now interpolate the custom data between those vertices. So at the moment it will get lost, or sometimes it would pick one side. It will get the attributes custom data from one of the vertices, but now it will interpolate them. So nice. Thank you, Tariq. In the N section, we have N for nodes. All of the nodes are worthy. One. Well, actually, these are 2 in 1. So we already talked about indirect assets or node groups that are not necessarily something you added yourself, but are part of other assets. They're, you know, nested inside. Well, Blender, up until recently, it would list all of them under the Shift A group menu, which can make it really noisy and messy. And imagine if you have this for every asset, it would be impossible. So this was later moved to a group called linked, and then in linked you have all this. So it's a lot less busy because in the first level you get all your own groups, and then, or the top level groups that are local, and then the linked ones. However, right away, Jack Luke, based on community feedback, didn't revert this, but basically decided to hide all of the internal ones and then just list the top level one. So not the nested children. So now it should look a bit more clean. Still underlinked, but still clean. Next. New node, another node by Brady. Set string case. Oh, which kind of cases? Uppercase, lowercase, title case. No, there is potential support for other changes such as title case, but this is simpler node, can be added now, and those extra formats can be added later. Nice. Cool. I guess at some point we're gonna get like remove special characters, all those kind of camel case, all the cases, snake case, all the cases. Case nice stat. Let's see. Oh, this is a fix by Quackaruni. Basically, when making a group of a reroute, which can happen, right? Reroutes are these dots that connect other items, but it would happen, it was a bug basically, that when you have a reroute and then you make a group and then you unmake the group, when you go back, the group would get the width of that one node, so it will be tiny. So that has been fixed. So thank you, Quackaruni, for making Blender better. You know who else makes Blender better? Raiko, who optimized the 4 color mix modes that were present already in geometry nodes, and apparently these were better implemented and much faster and better, more accurate, better numerical properties than the ones used by Cycles, Open Shading Language, and Eevee. So now they all use the same and should be better, faster, stronger. Next, make node socket padding more consistent. Another tweak by W Cloud, which makes the padding between sockets a lot more consistent when they have or not their group input or not. So when they're connected or not connected, custom socket order. So yeah, you should see things a little bit more tidy. So nice. O4 object. Oh, this is so nice. So last time we talked, remember, I mentioned how Folk added geometry node support to empties. Well, now, you know, empties can instance geometry, right? When you instance a collection, it's basically an empty with a collection instance inside. Well, now that instance information, geometry, is available in geometry nodes. So you see here, this is an empty. Basically, it's orange. It's an instance of an empty of a collection, which has geometry nodes, has a node with nothing in it, and the group input and output both have well, the input has a geometry, which before it used to be empty. So you had to manually add yourself the instances. So nice. Cuando sale la LTS, that means when the LTS is out, that will be 14th of July, 14 de julio. Next. In case when you don't know when is the next LTS, you can go to projects.blender.org. In the sidebar, you see the version that you want to go. All right, 5.2 LTS. Then boom. In 5.2 LTS, you have all the dates. release, beta, release candidate, and so on. The same, you want to know when 5.3 comes out? In November, in the 10th of November. Do you remember? Okay, next. That was all for object, but there is one feature in Outliner. Actually, I could have moved the other one in Outliner. This one is a very convenient operator that allows you to link an object to a specific scene, not just to the current scene, but some other scene. So this is how it looks basically. You have an object, right click, link to scene, and then it lists you the list of scenes, so you can link it from here without actually having to drag and drop with two other scenes. So nice. Let's go for P4 Python. Brecht von Lommel added support for the file path for each. So it works with UDIMs, sequences, and TX files. This is relevant for studios, for render farms, for example, and other scripts that can find all the relevant files for the cycles texture cache. So now you know. Let's see. There are refactors, render stuff. Yeah, Hydra now uses the 2.0 API, but I don't know if anybody here is using it at the moment. Let's go to convenience, quality of life in shading, because this is so nice. To me, this is a quality of life of the week. No, it's not. There is one that is better even. Use environment texture node when drag and drop in the world editor. So nice. When you drag and drop a image into the world editor, now a environment texture will be added instead of the image texture node, because image texture node doesn't give you the kind of rectangular, panoramic, etc. Projection. So that's so nice. It's a tiny thing. Actually, if you look at the code, even is fairly small. It just checks if the shader is world, then add this node environment instead, use image. Very small, but you know, you need someone to actually go check, compile, go put up the PR, address the feedback, and then commit it. So nice. Thank you, OxySeed, for this. Let's see. There is tests, tools, and let's talk about UI. The user interface has a number of changes. First one, and to me this is the quality of life of the week, I think. I should have some kind of graph also for the quality of life of the week. I think I'm gonna make something like that soon. I should make like a BlenderToday on app that has this thing that I address, which maybe the sounds. I use like 3 sounds. I should just topic. Add unit hint when text editing number values. This is so much better when you actually see it in action. Have you noticed that when you, in Blender, right, when you click on a field and it has a unit, Blender would also select the unit. So if you click and then Control-C, Command-C to copy, it would also copy the M in it, the unit, which if you paste it in some other places, it would fail. So that alone is annoying. But also, when you want to change this value here, you have to move back letters, right? If this is centimeters, it's cm, and then you have to move a lot more. Not anymore, because Folk went ahead and made it so what you actually interact with is just text, sorry, not text, but numbers, your units, without the units. You can add the units if you want, you can specify a unit, but if you don't, it will give it a hint, the same that we use for placeholder text. Well, now it lets you show it. So it is very nice, and it works with any unit. So you have it here working for pixels or for centimeters in this case. It also works for adaptive values, percentage, anywhere, everywhere. So it is pretty nice. You can type yourself and it will like autocomplete. So nice. Such a small thing. But small, it's not really a small thing. 20 files modified. Sorry, small as in the UI. But this is in 5.2, so I'm pretty happy to see what people say about it, because it is, you know, when you notice, first you don't notice, but then it's like, oh, hey, Blender is doing something for me here. And I like it because actually this goes hand in hand with something that was done by Harley recently, which is that when you click on the input, the text, the placeholder is still there, so until you type. So you actually see what's going on without having to remove everything first. So cool. What else? Well, something that is not so impactful is that the theme in Blender 5.1 and previous, the theme panels, they all have icons, and some of the icons were completely wrong. Like the bones had like a color icon, right? So I think let's see, how was it in theme? Yeah, so bone color set had like colors, and then collection colors had collections, strip color tags, okay. But then user interface had like the workspace icon, doesn't make any sense. And then there were a few without. So and also text style is over here, but text style is actually UI, right? And then in UI, in user interface, you also have like transparent checkerboard all the way to the top next to styles. What is style? Everything is style, right? So that was a bit verbose. So I changed that to be more in line with, you know, names that we use in the UI, like editor and widgets. Okay, nice. Then transparent checkerboard, it actually belongs to widgets, so it's nested. Then style is actually text style, and is right here. And that's it. Icons now also shows the icon alpha and the saturation for the sidebar, toolbar saturation. And it actually says toolbar because before it didn't. So now you can actually lower the saturation all the way down, and the color would only apply to hover and selected items. That has been like that since a while, so I didn't do anything here. And that's it. And borders, did you know you can add borders to icons? No, that's it. Yeah, color sets. Oh, the color set now is all in one panel. So you have bones, collections, and sequencer strip all in one place. Same thing. Very small thing compared to the great things people are doing here. Like Pratik made the views in Blender in general, like lists, so much nicer. This one in particular is the grid view. So the asset shelf, for example, when the active element changes, the view will focus on that. So before it would, yeah, Blender would change the active element without telling you, without actually communicating. So if, for example, if you scroll out of the view and then you press arrow left to go to the other asset, now Blender will focus. So many things that you think is like, how did we survive so long with this, without this? Another change related to Keymap and period key is that you can now press the period key in the keyboard or the mouse 4 button to focus the active element in views. So if you are in, say, for example, you are in shape keys here, you have a Brazilian shape keys and you're out of the view and you want to know, okay, where is my active shape key? You can just press dot or 4 in your mouse and Blender will focus. That's so nice. That is so Blender, and it wasn't there before. Now it is in 5.2. Oh, another, so nice. Another great improvement by Pratik on long lists is that, I don't know if you remember, but when drag and dropping items, it would be very finicky. You would have to drag and drop like exactly around this area. Otherwise it wouldn't work. It would complain. It was so finicky, and now it's not anymore. You actually, when you drag and drop to the edge, Blender will just work. even if you had your mouse all over the place, Blender will just work. So thank you so much, Pratik, for the love you give to the UI. Next, the advanced settings popover in paint mode has a small change. The accumulate options, the front faces only, both are moved up because they were a bit too, all the way down, and most people, based on feedback, they always press like front faces and accumulate, so they were moved all the way up, so they're easier to reach. But also the auto masking options, which is very long, now can be collapsed, so you can if you don't use them, you can disable them. That's it. So what used to be a very long panel now can be a small panel. Nika made the shape key operators and properties tooltips much nicer, much more well, you can actually learn from it because some of them didn't even have a tooltip. For example, if you are adding a shape key from Mix, then you get a different tooltip. So for example, create a new shape key from the visual result of existing mix of keys. So it actually explains you where before it would just give you one tooltip for all sorts of adding shape keys. So this is super nice. And the same for removing all the shape keys. So it's in the details. Many changes have been done to menus, but trying to organize them. So nothing has really, you're not gonna get super lost. Trust me. So it's all about organizing things better. So in this case, for example, the object mode, well, now let's look at the edit mode. Before, all the items were a bit spaced out, as in there were some items that work in object mode and some that work in edit mode only. In object mode there was a separation, but in edit mode there wasn't. It was all over the place. So now object mode and edit mode are much closer. You will notice that the top elements, which work in both modes, are in the same place, and then the ones that work in edit mode are after. So yeah, it makes it so tidy. So it's actually better for your memory. Thank you, Nika. And then two other changes by Ethan Traurig that make also things a bit nicer. For example, this is the node editor context menu. The delete and dissolve options are now always placed last. This is not just for this context menu, but in general in Blender. We had that rule at some point, that kind of guideline, not rule, and got lost along many changes. But now it's here, so thank you, Ethan, for bringing it back. But also smaller things, like for example, rename. Rename works only in the active element, usually, unless you do batch renaming. So in that case, mention it, rename active node, because maybe people select 5 nodes, rename, and they think all of them got renamed. So, you know, just a little change in the label can make things a lot more clear. Let's see. What else? The same for the key menus in the dope sheet, were a bit structured again by Ethan, by moving the delete late and then changing some labels, so they're more similar to other places. What else? This is also the other menu, so it should be a bit more tidy. I don't know if the copy keyframes, if we need the, this is the keyframes menu. I don't know if we need the word keyframes that many times. Delete keyframe, clean keyframe, bake keyframe, copy keyframe, insert keyframes. Like, I wonder if it's needed. I mean, when you're searching, you will get the menu keyframe there, so maybe we don't. But I missed the, oh, there is an icon in duplicate, but I missed the PR review. So let's see. It's good for quick favorites. That's a good point. Nika is mentioning that when you add something to quick favorites, it's good to have the full name. But then that's a problem of quick favorites. Let's see. Icons. Also another pass. The UI team has been, well, UI team and UI community has been doing a pass on many places in Blender. So there is two new icons for download. One of them is the download itself. It's called download. So if you have an add-on that uses something to download, now there is one from the cloud. And it uses the shape of the Blender cloud. I don't know if somebody noticed, but it's a little Easter egg that I add. I love Easter eggs. So I basically took the Blender cloud logo. I don't know if you remember this one. And there must be one with the actual, yeah, this one. So I took this logo and then I made it into the other one. I just added an arrow down. And there is also a new icon for download done. So if the download is completed, you get a little cloud with a check on it. The check is actually the same size as the checkbox one, so it should match. That's not an Easter egg. It's just guide. It's just trying to make icons not terrible. Copy paste icons were also missing in many menus, so now they are. So whatever we do copy paste, you know, it's very, when you look at this, it looks redundant until you are teaching a class in China. I did that once, and they use Blender in Chinese, of course. So you're trying to navigate the menus, and then icons are a lifesaver because then you can tell what is what. But not only that, I mean, in general, I think if you're learning English, but you're still not super familiar and you're trying to follow Blender from a tutorial, icons are universal. So icons are great. Let's have more icons. Let's see. And the asset browser also has new icons. Actually, this one I don't even have an image, but this is the usual. I mentioned it actually before. The context menu also has missing icons. Added missing icons for the delete and X. And the it's not here, but actually the file browser also has icons now. That will be next week. And the icons are now centered properly in the category tabs. From a change by Guillermo. All right, that was all for the user interface. Let's see what else is new in UV. 3 settings in UVs. 1. Original bounding box unwrap. Ooh, that's so good. This is a design from ages ago, but look at this, awesome. So you basically have a new option that when you unwrap, you can click on original bounds, and that will mean that it will keep the bounds of the original shape instead of if you have something stretched, it will keep being stretched. Not anymore. So cool. Okay, next, UV editor now has snap points functionality. So the same that you're familiar with from modeling. Now you also have it in snap points from modeling, but now in the UV editor. This is amazing. I hope people are happy about this because, you know, we don't often get news for the UV editor, except when Ethan contributes and Tarek also. And Jonathan Lampol also added something, but actually added by removing. So there was a check in the overlays that would check to show you or not the guides, like grid display options, if you are in the image editor itself. However, now that we have, so it didn't really apply to the UV editor, but now that we have UDIMs and multiple objects and so on, it's important to keep that grid. So now there is a grid that you can toggle. I mean, the option was there, it's just not exposed. And there is more actually, but wait, there is more. V for VR. And this is another feature that is huge, and it made it on the last day of 5.2 alpha. So you're gonna get it in 5.2. if you do VR, you will be glad to see this new feature. It's called location scouting, which let's see how are they actually. The release notes should have now. I think I heard, so a bird told me. There you go. Nice. Yes, so Jonas implemented this. What is location scouting? Well, it's called like that because when you're filming, right, you go look, you go scout for a location. You go with the camera and you say, okay, I want the camera maybe from this point of view. I want it to look like on this angle, and then on this angle, and then on this angle. So there is now a mode in VR that you can basically do this. You enter this mode and you can set a camera, save the location, go to another place, save the location, and then you get a bunch of cameras in place. You can even navigate between them to see the previews, and why don't I show you something instead of... Anyway, so capturing a shot, it feels like something like this. So this is an actual, this is not a mock-up, this is an actual screenshot. So you have your scene in your hand. With one hand you have the viewport basically of this camera, then you point and then you snap, you take a you snap the position. You get these settings like the f-stops, the depth of field, the lens. It's great. You can even have an image playback mode that allows you to play back other pictures that you have. So in this case, if you have in image playback, without actually taking off your headset, you can look at other screenshots from that you take from this scene. So it's so nice. Let's look at a bit more. So in this case, this is a live view camera. So this is a Gaussian splat, and then you go in and you take a screenshot, and then you can actually preview it from other points of view. You see, this is the camera point of view, and this is how it looks. Isn't that awesome? Do other software has this? I wonder. I guess they do, but now it's in Blender. So cool. Thank you, Jonas, for working on this. So nice. Well, and when you take out your headset, this is how it looks in the Blender UI itself. So you have in the VR tab, you have a location scouting panel with the capture shots, and you can enable on and off the VR viewfinder. The capture shots is a list basically of cameras that you can add quickly from here, and then also you can add a markers as well. So nice. Hand, left, right, scale, crosshair, passepartout even. So advanced. Nice. I wish we had a video because I think it's very but it's much more interactive when you see it like that. But the pictures are great, so shouldn't complain. Thank you, Jonas, for such a milestone. And you know what Jonas is gonna work on next? Something that starts with an A and ends with Android. Just don't tell anyone. V for video sequencer. That's one of the, well, it's not the last section. Actually, we have one more thing. So in the sequencer, things are now much faster thanks to ADAS, because compositor effects, modifiers that were fully opaque, were still being calculated too much, and now they're not. They're smarter. So for example, the render that is 4K and something that used to take 235 milliseconds on the GPU, now it's 135. Something that used to take in the CPU 1550 milliseconds, now it's 1420. So nice. And that's it. Blender sequencer faster. And oh, another feature that made it in time for 5.2 is something that I actually mentioned last episode, which is line spacing between in the text of the text strip of the sequence editor. So you can define how much distance there is. However, that distance that I mentioned last time, that was relative to the font height. This is absolute. So now you can tweak each one individually. This allows you to set, for example, in this case, you have, well, the example is like credits, where the font sizes vary, they are different. So in this case, you may want to tweak it. And that's it. It's a simple toggle that it's in the line spacing. You can toggle on and off. So you toggle absolute, adjusted, or relative. So absolute is in pixel and relative is in factor. Next, composition guides. Composition guides are something you may it may sound familiar to you from cameras. Well, they are now in the sequencer. They are now available as in the same name, same layout. It's a overlay in the preview of the sequencer that you toggle on. And when I need to wait, I hate GIFs for this reason. I need to wait for the GIF to end so I can actually show you. Okay, so you go here, you enable composition guides, and then you have this panel where you can toggle these settings on and off, and even change the color of the composition guides. So in case, to make sure that they don't conflict with your scene. So nice. So thank you, Golden Dragon. Next, an API addition that allows you to create new movie or new sound with a specific stream in mind. In the last episode of Blender Today, I mentioned a new feature that allows you to import or like drag and drop video files that have multiple video streams or multiple audio tracks. This is now, you can specify it in Python as well. The color strip has new options. The color strip, what else can a color strip have? Well, size. Sometimes you need to be very precise with the size of your colors. By default is the full width, right? So let's give it a nice color so you can actually tell. And in the transform options, you can now specify in pixels if you are sure that you want to something that is, I don't know, like 128 by 128. Now you can do it. Before you couldn't. It was the scale only, so it was relative to the scene. This is now absolute, so super nice. Let's see. Also by Alice Yellowvan, so thank you, Yellow Sun. Frog Stomp, that's the username. And the last change in the sequencer is it's a cleanup on the context menu. This is not in 5.2, this is for 5.3 change, along with all the other changes to the menus. So it's a bit of a cleanup also because sometimes there were, I think I mentioned this in the previous live stream, did I? There are sometimes too many options in the context menu that are not relevant to whatever you have active, right? Like you have a sound strip and it gives you options for images. That has been adjusted. Now it's a bit more smart, right? You have a movie strip selected and then you get things that are relevant to the movie strip. The same with two strips selected, things that you can do only with two strips, like transitions. And the same with nothing active, it will give you less options because you cannot rename nothing active. You cannot duplicate something that's not active or copy. Anyway, making Blender a lot nicer and cleaner. A lot of UI stuff today. Actually, I could have called it UI polish, but project is a lot bigger. And the last section for today, oh, I thought I wanted to keep it a surprise, but there is a whole thing down here that says that the next section is actually the weight paint section. Spoiler. What has changed in the weight paint is the default settings. So weight painting now should be a bit more intuitive because some of the settings have been tweaked to be nicer based on user feedback. For example, in the default brush is now the add weight option. So by default you add weight. Nice. It uses the add blend mode, accumulation, and a low strength, so you can tweak more detail, more subtle. The existing paintbrush has been renamed to set weight and now has a constant fall off curve. Nice. So you can set weight directly. The brush also has a new icon to distinguish from the add weight brush. Nice. The blur brush has been changed to use accumulation with a low strength. More subtle again. All brushes, the stroke spacing has been changed to be 5%, so it feels more responsive, so it doesn't feel like stuttering. I think the default used to be 10, so it should feel nicer. All brushes, which formerly used a custom fall-off curve that kind of approximate the smooth step function, will now use the smooth curve mode. And some mode changes. The multi-paint, auto normalize, and mirror vertex group option have been turned on by default. And that's it, I think. Yeah, the asset shelf is now shown by default in weight paint mode. Ah, that's nice. That I didn't notice. It wasn't there. So now if I go to weight paint, hey, now I see assets down here. So cool. Lots of UI stuff today. And that is all for this week, for this time. Has anybody made a thread with questions or not? Let's check and switch to the Q&A section. If there is a Q&A. Yes, there is one by Daniela Pal. Thank you so much. Let's check here. So let's go to the bottom and start from the first questions. So in this case, we have one by David, who says, hi Pablo, I was wondering if we could duplicate keyframe. Can we make instances on keyframe? Oh, I tend to lose my voice exactly at this point, sorry. Can we make instances of keyframe, especially on cheap grease pencil, so we could make changes in one frame and it will affect all the places? Actually, that's something that they want to make, instances of keyframe. Yes, there is even a mock-up about it, but I don't know the exact like the roadmap for that, but it is planned at some point. There is even a mock-up. It's a lot of changes that are coming to the dope sheet for the grease pencil, which at the moment is very similar to regular keyframing, which is not the case because for 2D graphs it should be different. But yeah, you can use asset poses. In the meantime, Jack Rocky says, no hi, no nothing. Thank you, Jack. No, then he says thanks. Vulkan will be on by default for 5.3. Breaking news. That's the goal, that Vulkan will be default for 5.3. That's the goal. It hasn't happened yet. Well, we have like 4 days of 5.3 only, so will they be fixing the memory issues by finally adding texture streaming user maps to Eevee, or just adding a warning label? That's a very specific question. I will have to ask Yorun, principal developer here as the Blender HQ. But I mean, it will be on by default. Will they fix the memory issues? I mean, if it's on by default, I almost closed the show. If it's on by default, I assume they're gonna, I mean, they're taking their time because they want to do it properly, right? 5.0 was the time where, no, 4.5 was when Vulkan was no longer experimental, and it's been many releases since they've been working on it, so I think they want to do things properly. But I can ask. Actually, Yorun sometimes watches the show, so if you're watching, hi, thank you, and maybe if you have an answer for this, I can mention next week. Next week. Chris12 says, hi Pablo, is there a way to add a render button to the render window? One other thing, thank you for the for doing the videos here. That's so nice. Is there a way to add a render button to the render window? There is a button. There is a way to add a button to the render window. Rendering, it's this editor, which is the image editor basically. The way to add a button is via Python. So there are many tutorials online how to make add-ons, how to add things to places, to menus, to sidebars. So yes, there is a way, but it's via Python. No, unfortunately, there's no built-in way of doing it. Glenn doesn't even say hi and starts with like, how to add lines like break to tool info at the top of the window when making tools. Breaks to tool info at the top of the window. There's no break lines in Blender's text. The info just go under global, but it's a heap of pipes now to separate everything. One like to shorten the super long info line. I'm not sure exactly which part are you talking. If it's the description, then no, there's no break line breaks. Hola Pablo says freeway. Any plans to expand on the project brush in sculpting by adding a mesh filter version as to shrink wrap the entire model? Oh, so project the brush in every direction. Mesh filter, for those unfamiliar with it, there are ways to, in sculpt mode, you can do a mesh filter and then apply some modes that are sometimes used as tools themselves, but this, you basically enable something like this, like inflate, and then you click drag, and then it applies to the whole object. I don't know if there is plans. I don't think there is any plans on this. I don't even know how would that work. But maybe make a right click select proposal to see what other things. But yeah. Another question, what about the new UV editor overlays, like separate UV islands with random colors for each? Any plans for those? Not that I know, but sounds cool. So maybe if Ethan is watching this, maybe he wants to give it a try. As you've seen, there are community contributors interested in these areas. I think it's a great thing. The more we can unify this thing, because also the benefit of doing these kind of features that already have a name, a description, that already exist elsewhere in Blender, like in the case of random object colors, it makes total sense to have in the UV editor some kind of, we already have an overlay panel, and it could have like color random or color by object, because now you can have multiple objects, right? You could have actually an object mode to have different random colors per island, random colors per object, random colors per seams, or things that are separate. Actually, yeah, many things now that I think of it. Could be interesting. Hussein to make something like this. Could be cool. Next, Nab says, "Oh, Pablo, hope you had a nice Hada. It's still day. It's almost 7 o'clock, but yes, I hope you too. We are getting lots of string nodes. We are. Do you think we might need something like a math node? I can imagine all the different options for capitalizing getting one, or selecting by feature. We need math to string nodes. Oh, I see. Maybe yes, like a style, like the uppercase, or yeah, sounds like it. What are the talks about rig nodes looking like? Apologies to ask you, I've been busy, but I'm sure we're all interested. Last try, it was confusing. Lots of exposed developer workflow, unspoken ordering rules, and lack of plain language, clear no names. I want to be able to make ragdolls and interactive viewport mechanisms. So rig nodes are nowhere near at the moment because there is not that many developers. One of the key developers of the animation module was busy with online assets because he's a genius. He can do many things, but unfortunately that means that when he does, he can do animation while he does flamenco or online assets. But now that online assets are in main and the V1 it's in main, there will be more focus on animation. However, there is a priority, which is animation layers, because if that topic is not tackled, the community will riot. I don't know what people are more interested in, but yeah, I think animation layers is before rigging nodes. Rigging nodes, you can imagine, is going to be a whole planet, like geometry nodes. However, it is nice to see that geometry nodes, compositor shading nodes they have so many nodes now, building blocks, that when rigging nodes happen, it should be relatively much faster in terms of once the basics are there, when the foundations are done, than geometry nodes, because geometry nodes is what introduce a whole lot of these foundation building blocks. That being said, actually, I don't even know, I'm talking out of ignorance here, but sounds like the transformable API, this thing they introduced that now allows us to have slider operators and animation tools work on objects, not just on bones. That sounds like something that could open doors to make this rigging nodes system IBM full of. But it sounds to me, from my tiny brain, that it could be related. What do you think? Please don't, maybe I'm saying whatever. On a more topical note, the new Bevel node was the last thing I needed to make a set of geonodes for CAD design. Share them with the community. I'm off to bring a new user base to Blender. It's a small mercy that I have till November to add the new glossy normal correction. Nice, thank you, Nabnabud. Looking forward to seeing your makings. Alan says, hi Pablo, many cool updates. Nice. I was wondering, we now have menu switch in the shader editor. But we cannot plug nothing in the menu option socket. Well, yeah, you can plug menus. Do you know any workaround, or we need to wait for a proper node? You can add, you have a menu switch, you can add menus in the menu. No? Maybe someone with more experience can reply to this. Next. Hi Pablo, hope your day is going well. Yes, it is. There any chance there will be GPU acceleration for the video sequence editor? Yes, there is a chance. I know there is for the compositor, but I'm specifically asking about when render out a video. Yes, there is a chance. However, as you can see, it's a big project. It's been taking a while, but also you can also see that they are working on performance in the compositor, in the sequencer, in many other places. So when because the thing is, it's not like it's just a switch to GPU, boom, faster. There is all these other bottlenecks around it that also improve efficiency. So you see now they're working on all of this. And yes, GPU support, it's in the roadmap eventually, but there is not work at the moment as far as I know. Next, hi Pablo, I hope it is well. It's Glenn. I finally made a working CAD line tool with snaps for Blender. It's taken years. Love to hear what you think about it. I put a video of it working here. Sorry, I'm not gonna click on things during the live stream. I'm sorry. Love to get help improving it. Also, one request: can you allow us to add edit tools in object mode so we can make proper CAD tool palettes? I have to add an icon in object mode and then make it link to edit mode. So object mode tools. So anybody that is interested in this, actually CAD tool, right? Now, Nabad, you're talking about CAD design. So maybe you can get in touch and give, we're CAD maxing this week. Indeed, yeah, you are. Yeah, indeed. So maybe that's what's needed. So maybe you can help Glenn here. What else? Any bots in the chat? No. Is DLSS available with 5.3 alpha? No. Is not, will be, I guess, because NVIDIA announced it on their blog. They announced it on their official NVIDIA development blog that Blender 5.3 will have DLSS 3, which is great. DLSS 3 is not there yet. Sorry, DLSS 4.5 in Blender 5.3. Wow, it's a mouthful. DLSS 4.5, not 5. 5 is the one that was very controversial. 4.5 is the one that is similar to existing DLSS in games and stuff, and it should help with viewport performance. So you basically have EV speed with cycles quality. So cool. Like an upscaling and denoising option. Let's see. I think that's it. It's almost 7 o'clock actually, so that's a nice way to close. So I would like to thank everyone. Thank you so much for staying until the end, for hanging out with me. It's been a pleasure. It's been nice, it's been fun. It's cool to show good news, great news actually. We didn't even have any announcements today. We were just like feature. So I hope you enjoyed and you have some of these features that help you make great things in free and open source software. If you like what you see, give it a comment, thumbs up. If not, maybe let me know with a donation on the development fund. Actually, I didn't, it's been a while I don't hook this up actually, but 7,300. When we announced Blender, let's see blender.org. When we announced 5.1, well, actually, and every time we announce one, at the bottom I mention there were 7,800 announcements, and when 5.0, 7,900. So it's going down. Blender 5.0 at the moment of announcement of Blender 5.0, we had 7,900 individuals. Then in 5.1 we had 7,800, and in Blend now when 5.2 comes out, we might have around 7,300. We lost 500 individual donations. I mean, it's probably the AI stuff, or not really, because people, most of the people complaining, I don't know if they were actually donations. I think it's just a reflection of the economy we're in, and it's everybody's doing, is trying their best. So that was shocking. I haven't been here in a while. You know what else? I can, while we are here, we can mention the conference. The tickets are still there. The conference is still happening on September 23rd to 25 here in Amsterdam. So if you want to hang out with other Blender heads, come. That being said, I will talk to you in the next episode, which is, let's see, June. The 23rd of June, which means the World Cup starts in 2 days. Yes. In the 11th. Wow. Okay. And then next week, the week after, in the 23rd, we're gonna hang out again. So hopefully with good news for those people following the World Cup, and for those who don't, enjoy time off. Go somewhere quiet and enjoy an open Blender. Get your headphones and happy blending. I will see you again next time, same place, but the same time, for another episode of BlenderToday Live. Thank you. Thanks for staying until the end, for hanging out. Yeah. Sorry, your ear holes. Hi.